A waitress serves when Keanu Reeves saw the note on check. She broke down in tears. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Tell us where you're watching from in the comment section. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more motivational stories. If you haven't already, please reach 1,000 subscribers. Don't miss the end of the video. New York City, March 12, 2023, 8:45 p.m. Nothing could have prepared Emily Carter for what was about to happen. She had no idea that the man sitting alone at table 9, the one in the faded jeans and worn leather jacket, was going to permanently alter her life. The dimly lit corner of the restaurant was alive with soft conversations and the clinking of silverware. Emily, 26, had been working double shifts at Harper's Diner in Manhattan for nearly 2 years. She was helping her younger brother Liam, who was still in high school, and paying off her late mother's hospital bills. Life hadn't been kind to her lately, but she carried her burdens quietly, always smiling warmly and tiredly for her patrons that night as jazz music hummed through the speakers and the rain pattered softly against the windows. Emily had seen the man's familiar face earlier, but she was too preoccupied with cleaning dishes and refilling coffee cups to give it much attention as she walked up to the table to bring the check. Her hands didn't start to shake until Emily came back minutes later to pick up the money. Inside the leather folder was a note handwritten on a napkin. It wasn't just the words that made her heart race, though. It was the signature at the bottom. "Here's your check," she said with a courteous smile, placing it gently on the table. The man looked up and met her eyes. His kindness was disarming. "Thank you." Her knees began to weaken, and her breath caught. Before she had even finished reading the note, Keanu Reeves' eyes began to flood up with tears. For someone who bears the weight of the world so elegantly, never forget that your compassion matters and never lose hope. Emily's vision blurred as she struggled to control her breathing. The handwriting was neat yet personal, and the words felt heavier than the ink. "Reeves, Keanu," she turned quickly, looking around the restaurant, but Keo had already gone. Her shaking fingers touched the $100 notes buried beneath the note. Far more than the price of the lunch. But it was the words that destroyed her, not the money. The diner's door closed as a blast of cold air rushed in, and Emily sank into the closest chair, her tears streaming down her cheeks. She wasn't the type to cry at work, especially not in front of customers, but tonight she couldn't stop herself. The truth was that Emily had been supporting her younger brother Liam for far too long. Ever since their mother died of cancer 2 years ago, their father had abandoned them when they were children. And ever since then, Emily had taken on the roles of both parent and provider, working long shifts and picking up extra hours on the weekends, and skipping meals to spare Liam from having to eat. But no one knew that until tonight, as she wiped away her tears. Emily's supervisor Linda approached and knelt next to her. "Are you all right, honey?" When Emily gave Linda the note, the elderly woman's eyes opened, and she was scarcely able to speak. "Here at our diner is Keanu Reeves." Emily gave her the napkin and nodded, still fighting back tears. "What did he say to you?" After reading it aloud, Linda put a reassuring hand on Emily's shoulder and said, "You deserve every word of this and more." But Emily couldn't help but believe that there was more to the moment because the words felt too particular and intimate. When her phone buzzed on the counter, interrupting her thoughts, it was Liam. "You won't believe this, Liam, sis. Someone dropped an envelope at our door with your name on it." Emily's heart skipped the contents and replied back a moment later. But then her phone vibrated once more. "Liam, I believe it's time for you to return home." Emily gripped the note and the tip, her heart racing as she stood there. As she snatched up her coat and hurried out into the rainy streets of Manhattan, Keanu Reeves couldn't have known where she lived. Her mind raced. Was this a coincidence, or was there more to this encounter? As Emily ran toward her tiny apartment on 14th Street, her shoes splattered through puddles. The chilly rain soaked through her jacket, but she didn't care because her heart was beating so loudly that it nearly drowned out the sounds of the city. When she arrived at her building, her hands fumbled with the keys before she suddenly burst through the door and called out, "Liam, where are you?" Her 17-year-old brother came from the kitchen, his face pallid, and his hands clutching a thick cream-colored envelope. Emily looked at this and snatched the envelope with shaking fingers. It was heavy and thick, and the words "Emily Carter Believe in Tomorrow" were handwritten across the front in the same meticulous script as the note at the diner. As she carefully peeled it open, tears clouded her vision. but inside was a letter and a cashier's check. Emily exclaimed, $10,000. Liam was sitting next to her when her legs gave way, and she fell onto the couch, his eyes wide with shock. What does the letter say? Emily's hands were shaking as she unfolded it. Emily, don't give up. You're stronger than you realize. I left this for you because I didn't want to cause a scene. I heard your earlier conversation with the manager and couldn't leave without doing something. You reminded me of my own mother, who worked 2 jobs and still made me feel like the most important person in the world. This time, there was no signature, but Emily knew it was him. She put the letter to her chest and started crying for the first time in what seemed like forever. This time, she wasn't crying because she was tired or afraid, but rather because someone had actually seen her. As the tears fell, Liam took her arm. Emily glanced over the envelope once more, blinked, and noticed a phone number on the back. Liam smiled through his own tears, saying, "You have to call him." But Emily hesitated the entire time. She had learned to be independent. So, was this too good to be true? What if this was only a passing phase, and she would be back to struggling the next day? Something inside of her told her that this wasn't the end of the story. It was only the beginning. She picked up her phone and dialed the number, and it rang twice before a warm, familiar voice answered. Emily stopped. Emily's fingers shook as she held the phone to her ear, and she gulped hard, her voice barely audible above a whisper. "Hello, this is Emily Carter." "I'm Emily." The other person's voice was steady, calm, and clearly Keanu Reeves. "I was expecting you would call." Her breath caught, because I'm at a loss for words. "The check and the note are too much for me to accept," he said. "I saw the way you treated every customer tonight like they mattered. I heard you talking to your manager about your brother, about the sacrifices you're making for him. And I know what it feels like to lose someone you love and still try to keep going." Keanu's voice softened. "You can and you should. It's not charity. It's belief. I believe in you." Emily started crying again. There was a momentary pause as her breath caught you. "I'm still here because someone once did for me what I'm doing for you. They saw my suffering and offered me hope when I had none. I lost my fiancé and our child years ago, and it devastated me. I don't frequently tell that story, but something about you reminded me of her bravery and kindness." Emily brushed away her tears and said, "I'm so sorry. I didn't know you weren't supposed to." He laughed quietly. Emily's pulse raced because she had been invisible for so long, and finally someone saw her fully. "I'm not sure how to express my gratitude because you already have." Emily smiled through her tears as Keanu said, "Just promise me one thing. Anything, don't give up." There was a pause before he continued. "And one more thing, I'll be back in New York next week. How about dinner? My treat this time?" Her breath caught. "Are you as serious as the rain outside your window?" he asked with a warm laugh. Emily couldn't stop grinning. "I'd love that they said their goodbyes." And Emily hung up the phone, clutching it to her chest. Liam stared at her, his eyes wide. She nodded, still in shock. Over the course of the following week, Emily's life started to change. She paid off the bills that had plagued her for years, enrolled Liam in a tutoring program to help him get into college, and for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to dream about the future. However, as the days went by, something else started to grow: anxious excitement about seeing Keanu again, not because he was famous, but rather because he had become a friend in her darkest moments, a light when she had none. On the night of their dinner, Emily stood outside the restaurant, her heart pounding, and the door opened, and there he was, grinning, smiling, and real as he approached. Emily realized then that this wasn't the end of one story.